A 7-year-old kid named Monkey D. Luffy lives in a small village where he hangs out with a pirate named Shanks, someone he deeply looks up to. During a fight with a bandit, Luffy accidentally eats a mysterious fruit that turns him into a rubber man. These are called devil fruits, and they come with a curse. Whoever eats one can never swim again. A little while later, the bandit comes back and kidnaps Luffy, dragging him out to sea. A sea monster attacks them, but Shanks shows up at the last second to save him, losing his arm in the process. After that, Luffy declares that one day he'll become a pirate and surpass Shanks and his whole crew. Before leaving, Shanks gives Luffy his straw hat, telling him to return it once he's become a great pirate. The story jumps ahead several years. Luffy is now 17 and finally sets sail with one goal: gather a crew and find the One Piece, a legendary treasure left behind by Gold Roger, the former king of the pirates, 22 years ago somewhere in the Grand Line, the most dangerous sea in the world. Roger, right before his public execution, encouraged everyone to go find it. And just like that, a new age of piracy was born. Luffy ends up on the ship of a pirate named Alvida, where he befriends a boy called Kobe, who dreams of becoming a great marine. Basically, the guys who hunt pirates. They escape the ship after beating Alvida and head to a nearby marine base. There they meet a bounty hunter named Zoro. He fights with 3 swords at once and dreams of becoming the greatest swordsman in the world. A promise he made to Kina, his childhood friend who passed away and whose sword Wado Ichimonji he now carries. Luffy convinces him to join the crew. They escape the island after defeating the base's officer, leaving Kobe behind to join the Marines and chase his own dream. Luffy and his new crewmate Zoro drift at sea until they reach an island where they meet Nami, a thief with sharp navigation skills. They clash with another pirate crew there. Buggy the Clown is the captain, and he's eaten a devil fruit that lets him split his body into separate pieces. Luffy and Zoro win, and Nami leaves with them. They end up in a village called Syrup, where they befriend Usopp, a total coward and compulsive liar, but an incredible sharpshooter. Turns out he's the son of Yasopp, one of Shanks' crewmates. The 4 of them get wrapped up in a plot where Usopp's rich friend Kaya is being tricked by her butler, who's secretly a pirate trying to steal her fortune. They defeat him, Usopp joins the crew, and Kaya gives them a ship, the Going Merry. They sail it to a floating restaurant in the middle of the sea where they meet Sanji, a flirtatious cook who's deadly with his legs. During this arc, Mihawk shows up, the greatest swordsman in the world and one of the 7 warlords. Powerful pirates who work with the world government in exchange for immunity. Zoro challenges him to a duel and loses badly. He promises Luffy he'll never lose again, and that someday he'll defeat Mihawk and take that title. During the fight, 2 of Zoro's swords get destroyed. Meanwhile, Luffy takes down a pirate named Krieg who showed up to cause trouble. Nami betrays the crew and runs off, and Sanji ends up joining. His dream? To find the All Blue, a mythical sea where the waters of all 4 oceans meet. They all head to Nami's island and discover she's been under the control of Arlong, a fishman pirate ruling those waters. She'd been stealing for years just to save up enough money to buy her village's freedom from him. He betrays her and takes everything. Luffy and the crew step in, beat the pirates, and Nami officially joins with her dream of drawing a complete map of the entire world. Because of everything Luffy's done so far, the world government puts a price on his head: a 30 million berry bounty. His crew becomes known as the Straw Hat Pirates, or Mugiwara in Japanese. The crew ends up in Logtown, the city where Gold Roger was publicly executed. Zoro picks up 2 new swords there, Yubashiri and Sandai Kitetsu. Luffy almost gets caught by Smoker, a marine who ate the smoke fruit and literally can't be touched. He also carries a sea stone tipped weapon, a special stone that weakens devil fruit users on contact and cancels their powers. But a mysterious man steps in and helps Luffy and the crew escape. Now they enter the Grand Line, the sea where the One Piece actually is. To get there, they have to ride up a mountain river called Reverse Mountain. At the top, they meet Crocus, a man caring for a giant whale named Laboon who's been waiting over 50 years for a pirate crew that promised to come back. Crocus explains that regular compasses don't work in the Grand Line. You need a log pose, a special device that only points to the next island. You charge it there, then it points to the next one, and so on, all the way to the final island called Laugh Tale, where the One Piece is said to be. The crew runs into 2 people, one of them named Igaram, who belonged to a criminal organization called Baroque Works. They get lured to Whiskey Peak, an island that's actually a Baroque Works base. Luffy and the crew fight their way out and end up with Vivi, who turns out to be a spy inside the organization. She's actually the Princess of Alabasta, the country where Baroque Works' boss is based. She asks the crew for help, and they agree. Along the way, they stop at 2 islands. The first is Little Garden, where they meet Dory and Brogy, 2 giants from Elbaf, the island of giants. The second is Drum Island, where they meet Chopper, a reindeer who ate a devil fruit that made him human. This is a zone-type fruit. Quick breakdown of devil fruit types. Logia fruits transform the user into a natural element like smoke. Paramecia fruits grant strange powers like being made of rubber or splitting your body. And Zoan fruits let the user transform into an animal. Usually a Zoan user has 3 forms: base, animal, and a hybrid, but Chopper develops special pills that give him even more transformations. Chopper is a doctor who dreams of being able to cure any illness. He lived in the castle of Dr. Kureha, but was originally raised by a man named Dr. Hiluluk. Before dying, Hiluluk said one of the most important lines in One Piece: "A man only dies when he is forgotten." And in that sense, he hasn't died at all, because his will lives on in Chopper. This idea that a person's will continues through someone else who shares their dream runs through the entire story. Luffy defeats Wapol, the corrupt former king threatening the island, and the doctor reveals something big. Gold Roger's real name wasn't Gold Roger, it was Gold D. Roger. That middle initial matters, because Luffy's full name is Monkey D. Luffy. This is one of the story's biggest mysteries, the Will of D. We still don't know what it means or where it comes from. Chopper joins the crew and they head to Alabasta. Once there, Luffy has to take down the Baroque Works boss, Crocodile, another warlord who has a Logia fruit that turns him into sand. On this island, Luffy also reunites with his brother Ace, who has the Flame fruit and is hunting a pirate named Blackbeard. Ace doesn't find him there, but before leaving, he hands Luffy a mysterious piece of paper. The arc continues. Crocodile's plan was to find an ancient weapon called Pluton, and he knew the country held a clue. His right hand is Robin, an archaeologist helping him locate it. She has a fruit that lets her sprout copies of her body parts anywhere. They find an ancient stone, a poneglyph, with inscriptions revealing Pluton's location. Robin can read it, but she doesn't tell Crocodile because she has her own agenda. Luffy arrives just in time and defeats him. Crocodile's weakness: water. And since Luffy had blood on his fists, he could actually hit him. The rest of the crew fights Crocodile's agents too. Zoro faces Mr. One, a man made of blades. And from this point on, Zoro can cut steel. Sanji fights Bon Clay, a crossdresser who actually ends up becoming a friend of the Straw Hats. The rest of the crew handles the other Baroque Works agents. After the victory, they say goodbye to Vivi, who stays behind to do her duty as princess, but is considered a crewmate, a nakama, forever. As the crew escapes, Bon Clay sacrifices himself to buy them time. While sailing, they realize Robin has snuck aboard. She asks Luffy to let her join, and he says yes. Luffy's bounty climbs to 100 million berries. Zoro gets his first bounty too, for taking down Crocodile's strongest man. Now the log pose is pointing up and toward the sky. The crew finds a way to get there, and on the way, Luffy has a brief encounter with someone who will later turn out to be Blackbeard, though neither of them knows who the other is yet. They also meet Cricket, whose ancestor Noland is the key to reaching the Sky Island. A bird that always points its beak south helps them time their launch into a massive updraft that shoots the ship skyward. They land on Skypiea, the Sky Island. The villain here is Enel, a Logia user with lightning powers who calls himself a god and controls everything. There's also a conflict between two peoples, the Skypians, who are native to the island, and the Shandians, whose city of Shandora was lifted into the sky 400 years ago by a massive updraft. Shandora was once a golden city that protected another poneglyph. Robin investigates the ruins and finds information about a second ancient weapon, Poseidon. She also finds an inscription left by Gold Roger himself, proving he was here too and read the poneglyphs. Robin realizes she needs to find many of these stones scattered across the world. Only when she's read all of them will the full truth finally be revealed. Luffy defeats Enel. Rubber is immune to lightning, so he can hit him despite being a Logia user. Enel flees in a flying ship toward the moon, the original home of the sky-dwelling races like the Scipioans, Shandians, and Virkins. Yes, Enel was a Virkin. The crew parties with the locals and leaves with a big haul of gold from the ruins. Back at sea level, they run into Akiji, a marine admiral with an ice Logia. He crushes the whole crew effortlessly, but lets them go by his own choice. Then they get pulled into a contest with the Foxy Pirates, a weird tournament-style fight called a Davy Back fight. Luffy wins and they move on. They reach Water 7. The Going Merry is badly damaged after everything they've been through, so the crew sells their gold to get money for repairs. But the island's legendary shipwrights say it's beyond saving. Usopp refuses to accept it and fights Luffy over it. He loses and decides to leave the crew. Robin goes off with some mysterious figures who turn out to be government agents. Their goal, find blueprints of a massive warship classified as the ancient weapon Pluton. A man named Frankie, a cyborg, had been keeping those blueprints safe. He and Iceberg, the shipyard boss, were both apprentices under Tom, the legendary shipwright who built Gold Roger's ship and was later executed by the government. CP9 takes Robin to Eni's lobby, the judicial island and last stop before the government's prison. She went willingly because they threatened to hurt her friends if she didn't. The crew and Frankie go to rescue her. They take on all of CP9, including its most powerful member Rob Lucci, and save Robin. During the fights, Luffy learns 2 new gear techniques. Gear 2nd, pumping blood faster through his body to boost speed and power. Gear 3rd, inflating his bones to make a limb giant and hit with massive force. Zoro unlocks a new technique where he materializes the spirit of a demon with 9 swords. Sanji starts kicking with fire. Chopper uses a monstrous transformation. Nami masters her Clim attack, a staff made by Usopp that produces lightning, rain, temperature changes, and mirages. Usopp is also there, wearing a mask and calling himself Sogeking to hide his identity from Luffy. We also learn Robin's backstory. She grew up on Ohara, an island of scholars who studied the poneglyphs, ancient stones that tell the story of a period 800 to 900 years ago called the Void Century. A powerful kingdom once existed and was destroyed. One of the scholars, Clover, suggests the enemy that destroyed it was the world government itself, formed by an alliance of 20 kingdoms at the end of the Void Century, who then erased all history from that era. The government burned the island and its library to silence the truth. The scholars sacrificed themselves to throw their books into a lake first. Robin was the only apparent survivor. Aokiji was there and let the child go because he knew she was innocent. This, the Void Century, is the central mystery of One Piece, alongside the treasure itself and the meaning of the D. During the Eni's lobby arc, Frankie burns the Pluton blueprints. Zoro's Yubashiri gets destroyed. The Going Merry, despite being wrecked, sails itself to Eni's lobby to help them escape. Because its spirit materialized, ships develop souls called Klabautermann when they're truly loved and cared for, but the ship can't survive much longer and breaks apart. The Straw Hats hold a funeral and burn it as it sinks. They return to Water 7 for a celebration. Then Garp shows up, a powerful Marine Vice Admiral who trained Kobe. And here's the bombshell. Garp is Luffy's grandfather. He reveals that the mysterious man who saved Luffy back in Logtown was his father, Dragon. Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army, an organization fighting against the world government's corruption and the slavery it enables. Garp also reveals that Shanks is a Yonko, one of the 4 most powerful pirates, who rule the second half of the Grand Line known as the New World. The other 3 are Big Mom, Kaido, and Whitebeard, who happens to be the captain of Luffy's brother Ace. Frankie and Iceberg build the crew a brand new ship using materials Frankie had bought earlier with the money he'd taken from the Straw Hats. His dream is to build a ship that can reach the end of the Grand Line, just like Rogers did. He joins the crew. The new ship is called the Thousand Sunny. Usopp also comes back after apologizing to Luffy. As they escape, Luffy's bounty climbs to 300 million. The rest of the crew gets their own bounties too. Next stop, the Florian Triangle, a misty sea where they encounter a living skeleton named Brook. He's a skeleton because years ago he ate a fruit that let him come back to life once. But when he died, his spirit got lost in the fog, and by the time it found his body, only bones were left. The fruit still had to fulfill its purpose though, so he came back anyway. The crew ends up on Thriller Bark, a massive ship disguised as an island, where they face Gecko Moria and his crew. Moria has a fruit that lets him steal people's shadows and put them into corpses to create zombies. Zoro fights the zombie of Ryuma, a legendary samurai from Wano who lived hundreds of years ago. Moria had found his body in Wano and inserted Brook's shadow into it. Zoro wins and takes Ryuma's sword, Shusui. Brook gets his shadow back. Luffy defeats Moria. Then another warlord shows up, Bartholomew Kuma, a cyborg with a paramecia fruit that lets him repel anything with his palms, including people, launching them anywhere in the world. For his own reasons, Kuma lets the Straw Hats go after witnessing Zoro's willingness to sacrifice sacrifice himself to protect his unconscious captain. The crew celebrates with the freed people of the island. Brook turns out to be the musician the whale Laboon was waiting for. A promise is a promise, even if you're dead. And Brook joins the crew with the dream of sailing around the world and returning to Laboon. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, Luffy's brother Ace had finally caught up to Blackbeard and fought him. Their fight was supposed to be about revenge. Blackbeard had killed one of their crewmates. Blackbeard showed off his darkness fruit, which can nullify the powers of any devil fruit user he touches. He wins, then hands Ace over to the Marines to prove his power and get accepted as a replacement warlord for the defeated Crocodile. The Straw Hats continue forward and hit the Red Line, a massive wall of stone rising 10,000 meters above sea level that circles the entire globe perpendicular to the Grand Line. The world government's headquarters sit at the top, but the log pose points downward. The next destination is Fishman Island, deep underwater. Reverse Mountain is one way through the Red Line, the ocean floor is the other. They meet Cammy, a mermaid, and learn they need to coat the ship in a special bubble to go underwater. They head to the Sabaody archipelago to get it done. Here they meet the Supernovas, pirates who reach the halfway point of the Grand Line with bounties over 100 million berries. That makes Luffy and Zoro Supernovas. They also meet Rayleigh, the former first mate of Roger's crew, who gives them intel and offers to help coat the ship. Rayleigh tells them the One Piece isn't something Roger left at the island. When they arrived, it was already there. It's connected to the Void Century. He doesn't spoil what it is, and he refuses to tell Robin the full history of the Void Century either. He wants her to reach the end and discover it herself. He also says they arrived too early. In the future, they'll understand why. He also reveals Roger wasn't captured by the government. He turned himself in voluntarily. He had an incurable illness. His last words to Rayleigh before surrendering, "I'm not gonna die." And he was right. Nobody forgot him. He started the Great Pirate Era. His will lives on in everyone who searches for the One Piece, including Luffy. Cammy gets captured and sold at a slave auction, where a celestial dragon, one of the nobles who live at the world government's headquarters, tries to buy her. Luffy punches the celestial dragon in the face. The consequence, the Marines are called in, including Admiral Kizaru, who has the Light Logia. They also send pacifistas, robots modeled after Warlord Kuma. The real Kuma is there too, and he uses his power to scatter the Straw Hats, sending each crew member flying to a completely different island. Luffy lands on Amazon Lily, an island of only women, where he meets Boa Hancock, one of the warlords. She falls in love with him. He doesn't care. Luffy finds out that Ace is about to be publicly executed and is currently imprisoned in Impel Down, the world's most secure prison. The paper Ace gave him back in Alabasta was a Viver card. It always points toward its owner and burns slowly when they're in danger. Hancock uses her immunity as a warlord to help Luffy sneak inside. He causes chaos as he pushes toward the lowest level where Ace is being held, but by the time he gets there, Ace is already gone, transferred to Marineford for the execution. Now Luffy has to break out. On the way out, he picks up allies: Buggy, Mr. 3, Bon Clay, former warlord Crocodile, and Jinbei, a fishman who was also a warlord. Jinbei was jailed for refusing to obey the government's orders. They were preparing for war against Whitebeard in Marineford. Luffy also gains another ally, Ivankov, leader of the Cross-Dressers and a member of Dragon's Revolutionary Army. They escape together, though Bon Clay sacrifices himself to let the others get away. Meanwhile, Blackbeard had also snuck into the prison and freed some of the most dangerous prisoners, making them his new crew. Among them was Shiryu, a former prison warden who was locked up for being too brutal. Luffy arrives at Marineford, the site of a full-scale war. On one side, the Marines and the warlords. On the other, Whitebeard's pirates and their allied fleets all trying to save Ace. Whitebeard has a fruit that lets him create earthquakes. Ace isn't just Luffy's brother by choice. He's the son of Gold Roger himself. Luffy fights desperately to save Ace, but Admiral Akainu manages to kill him. The third admiral also plays a role in the war. Fleet Admiral Sengoku, who outranks the other admirals, is also present. Blackbeard shows up mid-battle and exploits the chaos to kill Whitebeard, then somehow absorbs his power too. He becomes the only known person in history to wield two devil fruit powers. something that should be impossible since eating a second fruit is supposed to kill you. The war continues. Kobe is there too and eventually realizes the fighting has gone too far and tries to stop it. Akainu sees him as a nuisance and tries to kill him, but Shanks appears in that moment and stops him. By the way, Shanks and Buggy were both apprentices on Roger's ship. Shanks stares down Blackbeard, who flinches and leaves. The Marines agree to end the war. Luffy collapses after losing Ace. Jinbei carries him, but Akainu attacks them on the way out, giving Luffy the massive X-shaped scar on his chest. Jinbei hands Luffy off to a man named Trafalgar Law, one of the supernovas introduced at Sabaody, who takes them away in his submarine. After recovering on Amazon Lily, Luffy is devastated. Jinbei tries to help him through it. Rayleigh shows up and proposes something. Train for 2 years to get strong enough. Luffy sends a coded message to his crew letting them know the plan. Meet in 2 years, back where they were separated. During that time, Luffy learns to control Haki, a power rooted in willpower. There are 3 types. Observation. Haki lets you sense enemies and even see a few moments into the future. Armament. Haki lets you coat your body in a hardened layer to deal and take hits better. And critically, this lets you strike Logia users even when they're intangible. And Conqueror's Haki lets you knock out enemies with weaker willpower just through sheer force of will. We also learn about Luffy's past, specifically how he met Ace and a third kid named Sabo. The 3 of them became so close they called each other brothers, but Sabo supposedly died because of a celestial dragon. Luffy's bounty jumps to 400 million after everything that happened during the war. The rest of the crew also trains during those 2 years on the islands they ended up on. Zoro lands on Mihawk's island, and Mihawk actually agrees to train him, knowing full well Zoro's goal is to defeat him someday. Zoro develops both armament and observation Haki. Sanji ends up in a kingdom of cross-dressers connected to Ivankov. He trains there and also develops both types of Haki. Brook ends up on an island with a satanic cult, but eventually becomes a global music sensation. They call him Soul King. Usopp lands on a dangerous island full of giant plants. Nami ends up on a sky island and learns more about weather. Chopper lands somewhere he can study medicine. Frankie ends up on Vegapunk's home island, the world's greatest scientist, and studies the old lab there to upgrade his cyborg body. Robin ends up on a bridge being built by government slaves. The Revolutionary Army shows up to free them, meaning Robin likely got to meet Dragon, Luffy's father. 2 years pass. A lot has changed. Blackbeard has become a Yonko, replacing Whitebeard. Akainu is now Fleet Admiral, replacing Sengoku. Aokiji left the Marines. 2 new admirals took the open spots. The crew reunites at Sabaody. Everyone looks different. Zoro appears to have lost his eye. The Thousand Sunny was still there safe. Kuma had been secretly protecting it the whole time. That warlord turned out to be another Revolutionary Army member. He agreed to let the government experiment on him in exchange for something we'll understand later. He lost his humanity and memories, but had Vegapunk insert one final command: protect the ship for 2 years. Rayleigh had coded the ship, and now the crew dives underwater to reach Fishman Island. In a memory of Rayleigh's, it's confirmed that Roger was the original owner of the Straw Hat. He passed it to Shanks, who eventually gave it to Luffy. They arrive at Fishman Island and deal with a group of pirates trying to take over the kingdom. The crew gets to show off everything they've learned over the 2 years. Luffy uses all 3 types of Haki. Zoro holds back his true power for now, but is clearly on another level. Sanji can literally fly by kicking the air. Nami's climb attack has been upgraded with Weatheria technology. Usopp fires special plant seed projectiles with precision. Chopper has new pill-based transformations. Brook separates his soul from his body and uses ice attacks. Robin can clone her entire self or produce giant limbs. Frankie brings out a full transformer robot built from 2 of the Sunny's vehicles, the Frankie Shogun. During this arc, Luffy runs into Jinbei again and offers him a spot on the crew. Jinbei says not yet, but when they meet again, he'll be ready. The arc also confirms there are 3 ancient weapons: Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus. Poseidon turns out to be the mermaid princess of the island. She can command sea kings, the massive creatures that rule the deep. Robin also finds a poneglyph with a letter of apology written by someone named Joy Boy, addressed to the mermaid princess of the Void Century. sorry. He's sorry for failing to keep a promise. We don't know what that promise was yet, but Joy Boy will become one of the most important names in the entire story. The crew moves into the New World, the second half of the Grand Line. They reach Punk Hazard, a destroyed former lab of Vegapunks, now run by a scientist named Caesar Clown, who's working with Warlord Doflamingo. Caesar produces a substance used to create artificial Zoan fruits called Smiles. Doflamingo sells them to Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, based in the country of Wano. Luffy allies with Trafalgar Law, one of the supernovas from Sabaody, with a shared goal: dismantle the Smile operation and eventually bring down Kaido. They also meet Kinemon and his supposed son Momonosuke, samurai from Wano who will travel with Luffy for several arcs. Momonosuke accidentally ate an artificial dragon fruit made by Vegapunk, letting him transform into a dragon. They destroy the lab, defeat Caesar, and set sail for Dressrosa to take down Doflamingo. When they arrive, Doflamingo is running a tournament in a coliseum. The prize? Ace's old flame fruit. Devil fruits reincarnate into a nearby fruit when their user dies, so it's back in play. Luffy enters to win it back, but after making it through the first round, he runs into Sabo, who is very much alive. After the accident years ago, he lost his memories, was rescued by Dragon, and has been in the Revolutionary Army ever since. Dragon's right-hand man. Sabo tells Luffy to go handle Doflamingo while he takes his place in the tournament. He wins the fruit and eats it, becoming the new flame fruit user. Luffy fights Doflamingo directly. His fruit, the string paramecia, lets him control people like puppets and slice through almost anything with threads. He also shows awakening, extending his powers to the environment itself, turning the ground into strings he can manipulate. Luffy responds with Gear 4th, combining hockey and rubber to inflate his muscles into a massive, incredibly powerful form. He wins. Luffy's bounty hits 500 million berries. A giant fleet of captains he helped on the island swears loyalty to him. They'll answer his call someday, likely for the final war against the world government. The Straw Hats head to Zoo, a 1,000-year-old elephant so massive it carries an entire ecosystem on its back. It's home to the Minks, a race of animal people who were longtime allies of the Kazuki clan, a family of samurai from Wano. Here, something crucial is revealed. To reach Laugh Tale, you don't just follow the log pose, you need 4 road poneglyphs, special red stones, each holding a set of coordinates. Trace all 4 on a map, and where they intersect is Laugh Tale. One is on Zoo, Big Mom has one, Kaido has one. The 4th's location is unknown. Also revealed, Momonosuke isn't Kinemon's son. He's the son of Kazuki Oden, the man who should have become Shogun of Wano, but was killed by Kaido. Momonosuke can hear Zunisha, the ancient elephant, and so can Luffy. This is connected to a rare ability called the Voice of All Things. Roger had it too. Momonosuke asks Luffy to help defeat Kaido and take back Wano. Luffy agrees, but first, Sanji has gone missing. He was taken to Whole Cake Island, Big Mom's territory, by a supernova named Capone Beige working for her. Part of the crew goes to bring him back, and if possible, grab a copy of Big Mom's Road Poneglyph. Turns out Sanji is the son of Judge, king of Germa 66, a technologically advanced military kingdom. His brothers were genetically engineered to be stronger warriors. Sanji's modifications took longer to surface, and he was looked down on for it. He hates his family for everything they put him through. The plan was a political marriage between Sanji and Pudding, one of Big Mom's daughters. Pudding is part of a rare tribe that may one day be able to hear what the poneglyphs say. Luffy fights his way through Big Mom's territory. First, he takes down Cracker, one of Big Mom's most powerful commanders, using a new form of Gear 4th called Tankman, where he inflates his entire body into a massive round shape and absorbs, then launches Cracker's attack back at him. Then Luffy eventually finds Sanji, but Sanji acts cold toward him, pushing him away to protect his friends. Underneath it all, he's still the same person, and eventually he comes around, trusts Luffy, and the two decide to crash the wedding and escape together. Then comes the real fight. Katakuri, Big Mom's strongest child. It's a brutal fight. During it, Luffy develops advanced observation haki, letting him see slightly into the future. He eventually wins using a 3rd version of Gear 4th called Snakeman. Brook had already managed to get copies of the Road Poneglyph and 2 regular ones for Robin. Jinbe finally officially joins the crew as helmsman, sacrificing himself in the moment to let the others escape. Zeus, Big Mom's cloud companion, ends up drifting over to Nami, drawn in by the special weather clouds her Climatact produces, and eventually fuses with it permanently. violently. Pedro, one of the minks who joined them, dies giving his life so they can get out. Luffy's bounty jumps to 1.5 billion. The world starts calling him the 5th Emperor. Around this time, something important happens at Mary Jawas, the world government's seat of power. Every 4 years, kings from all allied nations gather for an event called the Reverie. The warlord system gets abolished. All former warlords are now targets. Sabo and other revolutionaries sneak in to free Kuma, who had been enslaved after losing his humanity. But something darker happens too. King Cobra of Alabasta asks the Gorosei about the meaning of the D, and Imu steps out of the shadows and kills him for knowing too much. Sabo witnesses everything. He now knows the truth, that Emu is the real king of the world, hidden in the shadows. Before dying, Cobra also reveals that the Nefertari family, his own family, carries the D in their full name. Vivi escapes Mary Jawas and ends up at the flying base of Morgans, head of the World Economy newspaper. And for the first time, we see that the Gorosei answer to Imu, a figure no one in the outside world knows exists. Imu descends alone to a frozen chamber where a massive straw hat, identical to Luffy's but far larger, sits preserved behind glass. The Straw Hats arrive in Wano, a closed-off country of samurai controlled by Kaido and the corrupt Shogun Orochi. Luffy gets separated from the others early on. He eventually challenges Kaido directly and loses badly. Kaido has a mythical Zoan fruit, the Blue Dragon. Luffy gets thrown in prison where he meets Kid, another supernova who was already locked up. They take over the prison and begin preparing a massive operation to infiltrate Onigashima, Kaido and Big Mom's stronghold. Before the raid, we get Oden's flashback, and it changes everything. As a young man, Oden left Wano and sailed with Whitebeard. Then his ship crossed paths with Roger's. Roger had reached Lodestar, with a final island on the Logpo's route, but his compass kept spinning there. He believed another island existed beyond it, hidden from the world by the government. To reach it, he needed the coordinates from all 4 road poneglyphs, and Oden could read them. The Kazuki clan had carved the inscriptions into the stones centuries ago and passed the knowledge down through generations. Oden joins Roger. Together they track down every poneglyph. When they finally have all 4 coordinates, Shanks and Buggy, Roger's apprentices, are left on shore. Buggy had gotten sick and Shanks stayed behind to care for him. Roger's crew sails to the final island, finds the treasure, and learns the full truth of the Void Century. Their reaction? They laughed. Roger said, "What a funny story. I wish I could have lived in your era." The treasure is something Joy Boy left there long ago. Because of that, Roger named the island Laugh Tale. Before his execution, he told the entire world he'd left his treasure at the last island, ensuring that future generations would come looking and carry his will forward. Because as Rayleigh told Luffy, they arrived too early. The time wasn't right yet. After returning to Wano, Oden was defeated by Kaido and Orochi, who had already taken over the country. He died being boiled alive, but not before saving his retainers, who managed to escape. His wife, Toki, died too. She had come from the Void Century itself, using a fruit that let her travel forward in time. To save Momonosuke, who was only 8 years old, she used her last strength to send him and some of the retainers 20 years into the future. That's the present moment of the story. That's how they ended up meeting Luffy. Back in the present, one of Oden's retainers, Kanjuro, is revealed as the traitor who'd been feeding information to Orochi, but his intel was wrong because Kinemon had misread the coded meeting point and accidentally gave Kanjuro the wrong location. The Straw Hats and all their allies sail to Onigashima. Jinbei arrives in the final moment and officially joins the crew. War breaks out. During the battle, Luffy meets Yamato, Kaido's own daughter, who idolizes Oden and already knows about Luffy's secret dream, a dream that goes beyond becoming king of the pirates. A dream Roger had too. We still don't know what it is. During the fights, new powers emerge. Luffy learns to coat his attacks with advanced Conqueror's Haki to hit even harder. Zoro unlocks it too through his new sword Enma. Sanji is forced to use the raid suit his family gave him, a Germa 66 suit that enhances his abilities and makes him invisible. He destroys it afterward because he wants nothing to do with his family, but using it those few times triggers dormant modifications in his genes. His body becomes extraordinarily resilient, and then the moment that changes everything, Luffy's devil fruit awakens, and it was never a paramecia, it's a mythical Zoan, the human fruit model Nika. Nika, the sun god, the god of liberation. Slaves across history prayed to him, hoping he'd come and set them free. The world government had been hunting this fruit for centuries, and it kept slipping through their fingers. Now Luffy has it, and it's awakened. Gear 5th, white hair, complete freedom over his own body. He stretches and shapes himself however he imagines, turns anything he touches into rubber, and fights like a cartoon character brought to life. Pure imagination as a weapon. Luffy defeats Kaido. Law and Kid take down Big Mom. Both emperors fall into the lava below Onigashima. Zunisha, the ancient elephant, hears the drums of liberation from Luffy's heartbeat and says it plainly. Joy Boy has returned. The implication is clear. Joy Boy was the original user of Nika's fruit back in the Void Century. After the war, Momonosuke becomes the new shogun of Wano. Robin reads Kaido's road poneglyph. She now needs just one more to have all 4 coordinates for Laugh Tale. It's also revealed that the original Wano lies flooded underwater behind massive walls, and Pluton is somewhere down there. Momonosuke decides it's not time to open them yet. Shanks, from miles away, uses a wave of Conqueror's Haki to drop a Marine Admiral to his knees, sending a clear message that he's entering the race for the One Piece. Luffy's bounty reaches 3 billion berries. He's officially a Yonko, one of the 4 emperors. With Kaido and Big Mom gone, the 4 are now Luffy, Shanks, Blackbeard, and somehow Buggy the Clown. Buggy became a Yonko entirely by accident. The Marines think he's running Cross Guild, an organization that Mihawk and Crocodile created to hunt Marines. They're using Buggy as the public face. He has no idea what he's doing, and yet here he is. As the Straw Hats sail away from Wano, they have a stowaway on board. Caribou, a pirate they'd crossed paths with before. He'd overheard something critical back on Fishman Island. The mermaid Princess Shirahoshi is Poseidon, and Pluton is in Wano. He wants to deliver this information to someone. We'll find out who later. Also during the voyage, Luffy finally tells his crew his real dream, the one that goes beyond becoming king of the pirates. All of them are shocked. We still don't hear what it is. Meanwhile, the world is moving fast. Law, sailing away from Wano, is defeated by Blackbeard, who takes his road poneglyph copies from Wano and Zoo. Blackbeard also has agents infiltrate Big Mom's territory in her absence, likely securing her road poneglyph too. He's now tied with Luffy. Both have 3 road poneglyphs and someone who can read them. Kid reaches Elbaf, the island of giants, but is defeated by Shanks, who takes his road poneglyph copies. Shanks already had Big Mom's and Kaido's. The race for Laugh Tale is fully on. Also during this period, Vice Admiral Garp leads a mission to Hachinosu, Blackbeard's base, because Kobe had been kidnapped and was being held there. The mission goes wrong. Some of Blackbeard's crew, including former Admiral Aokiji, who had secretly joined them, fight back and capture Garp. But thanks to his sacrifice, Kobe and the other Marines manage to escape, and in a conversation between Aokiji and Blackbeard, something crucial is revealed. The 4th road poneglyph, the last one unaccounted for, is held by a mysterious figure known only as Jinokizu, which translates to the man with the burn scar. He's said to be drifting on a black ship somewhere at sea, and every ship that gets close is swallowed by whirlpools. Nobody knows who he really is yet. The Straw Hats set sail for Egghead, Vegapunk's island. The greatest scientist in the world gives them crucial information. The books from Ohara weren't destroyed. Giants pulled them from the lake and brought them to Elbaf. The mission was led by Jaguar D. Saul, a giant who became friends with Robin when she was a child, and who was supposedly killed by Aokiji. He survived. He's almost certainly in Elbaf right now. On Egghead, Luffy discovers a giant ancient robot over 800 years old. 200 years ago, it suddenly appeared at Mary Joy's and attacked the Celestial Dragons before running out of energy. Vegapunk believes it runs on an ancient energy source used by the Great Kingdom, something he's been researching his whole life. His dream, find infinite free energy and end all wars. Vegapunk also created the Seraphim, child-sized clones of former warlords mixed with Lunarian blood. Lunarians are a nearly extinct race with black wings who once lived on the Red Line. The last known one was King, Kaido's top commander, defeated by Zoro in Wano. The Seraphim also carry copied Devil Fruit powers. They're controlled by Vegapunk through 6 satellites, different versions of himself, each carrying part of his personality, all connected to a central server. One of those satellites, York, is a traitor working with the world government. They want Vegapunk dead. He knows too much about the Void Century. CP0 arrives, then Admiral Kizaru, then Saturn, one of the 5 Gorosei, in a monstrous demon Zoan form. Things spiral fast. Imu had already used stolen energy to destroy the kingdom of Lelouchia as a weapons test. The island simply ceased to exist. A hole remained in the ocean. The shockwave raised sea levels 1 meter across the entire world, swallowing coastlines everywhere. He wants more of this weapon, which is exactly why Egghead matters so much. Luffy defeats Kizaru but collapses from exhaustion. Saturn grabs Bonnie, Kuma's daughter and another supernova, who had attacked him after learning the truth about her father through his stored memories. Kuma's story is this: he came from the Buccaneer tribe, a lineage persecuted by the government. He was enslaved as a child, his parents died, and he eventually got a devil fruit at God Valley and used it to save innocent people. There he met a woman named Ginny and a young Ivankov. The 3 of them escaped together and eventually joined the Revolutionary Army, but Ginny was kidnapped by a celestial dragon and taken to Mary Joas, where Saturn experimented on her. She was eventually expelled, sick, and pregnant. She made it back just long enough to leave her baby girl behind before dying. That girl was Bonnie. Kuma raised her as his own, but Bonnie eventually developed the same fatal illness Ginny had. Kuma searched everywhere for a cure and finally turned to Vegapunk. The government offered him a deal: become a warlord, follow their orders, and allow Vegapunk to erase his humanity and memories completely. In return, they'd cure his daughter. He agreed. He gave everything for her. Then Kuma himself arrived. Freed by the Revolutionary Army during the Reverie, he'd flown off on his own. He punches Saturn in the face and saves Bonnie. Vegapunk dies. It triggers a pre-recorded broadcast sent to the entire world. The government can't stop it. In it, Vegapunk reveals, the world's land masses today are the remains of an ancient continent that sank between 800 and 900 years ago, caused by the ancient weapons, just as the sea is rising again right now. There is a 100-year gap erased from history, the Void Century. During that time, a highly advanced civilization carved the truth into the poneglyphs. The government has punished anyone who investigates ever since. The story those stones tell is about a man born 900 years ago in an incredibly developed kingdom. He was called the Sun God, Nika. He had an elastic body that he used to fight. His name was Joy Boy, the first pirate in history. He fought the world government and lost, but made sure future generations would inherit the ancient weapons. Vegapunk ends by saying, the war from 900 years ago hasn't ended, and the fate of the world will be decided by whoever finds the One Piece. Saturn calls the other 4 Gorosei. All 5 arrive on the island in demon forms and order the surrounding marine fleet to bombard it. The Straw Hats need to escape now. Dory and Brogy, the 2 giants from Little Garden, show up with their entire pirate crew to help everyone escape to Elbaf. Then the ancient robot reactivates on its own. Triggered by the sound of Luffy's Gear 5th heartbeat, the drums of liberation, it recognizes Luffy as Joy Boy, and it releases an explosion of Conqueror's Haki that Joy Boy himself stored inside it centuries ago. Held there for exactly this kind of emergency, the Force sends Kizaru and all 5 Gorosei flying back. Even Imu, watching from far away, feels it, and for the first time, Imu is afraid. We see one final memory, the ancient robot speaking with Joy Boy himself in the Void Century. He wore a straw hat, and though we only see his silhouette, it looks exactly like Luffy. The Straw Hats escape toward Elbaf. The other 4 satellites of Vegapunk, thought dead, turn out to have survived. Their consciousnesses merged into one body, now floating safely in the sky, carried by special clouds. All of Vegapunk's research is still protected. Imu kills Saturn for failing. His seat on the Gorosei is given to a new member, Figureland Garling, Shanks' father. The war that started 900 years ago is still being fought, and Luffy, whether he fully understands it or not, is Joy Boy's second chance. And that's everything, and you're fully caught up. You can jump straight into the manga starting at chapter 1126. If this video helped, subscribe and drop a comment. See you in the next one.